Hello and welcome back to the Mission Soil podcast, your go-to space for everything related to the health of our soils and the groundbreaking work supported by the Mission Soil. I'm your host, Dominic Smith, and I'm thrilled to bring you the third episode in our series. Today we're zooming in on one of the most exciting components of the Mission Soil, living labs. These are real-life testing grounds where local actors, such as farmers, researchers, urban planners and citizens, come together to create and experiment, and to learn about how to restore and sustain healthy soils in their unique contexts. The Mission Soil is aiming to create 100 living labs and lighthouses across Europe by 2030. The first 5 living lab projects have already launched, setting up 25 initial sites across both rural and urban areas. These labs are helping to accelerate the transition to healthy soils by adapting solutions to local conditions and connecting people who care deeply about soil, from scientists to everyday citizens. In this episode, we're joined by 3 brilliant guests representing some of these pioneering living lab projects. Please welcome Erik Sindhoj from the iCOSHELLs project, Sonia Pietosi from LivingSoiLL, and Cristina Carlos from LivingSoiLL. So firstly, thank you all for joining us. Before we dive into the heart of your projects, I'd like to really start with a personal question to help our listeners get to know you a little better. What first sparked your passion for soil health? Sonia, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you, Dominic. For me, it's really about impact and sustainability. I really see soil health as at the core of sustainable human life on Earth. A healthy soil will ensure food production in the long term, and also healthy soil can significantly contribute to carbon sequestration. So I really think that if you want to contribute to a sustainable future, you can't take soil for granted. And that's why I really chose to work on this project.
Thanks, Sonia. And Cristina, how about you?
Hi, Dom. In my case, this passion comes from my origins. I'm from the Douro wine demarcated region located in the north of Portugal, where men cultivate vineyards here since hundreds of years under very challenging soil conditions. Steep slopes, very poor and stony soil conditions. So the way that these soils will allow the cultivation of vines under such extreme conditions has always fascinated me.
Thank you, Cristina. And Erik, how about you?
I've always been really drawn toward the intersection between agriculture, ecology, and environmental policy. I've decades of working in research on sustainable nutrient management. And when working there, the link is obvious between food production systems, soils, water quality, and climate effects. And I think the soil aspect of it is so often overlooked or just taken for granted. And focusing on soil and soil health, improving soil health, it's really a society demand. We have to do that for ensuing long-term sustainability of our societies.
Thanks, Erik. Yeah, it's interesting to hear why you're all so passionate about soil and soil health in the first place. So thank you for all sharing that. I'd like to now hear a bit more about the projects that you're all involved in. So Erik, we'll stick with you and start with iCOSHELLs. So the iCOSHELLs project spans 6 areas across different EU climatic zones. So can you walk us through the main aims of the project, but also how these soil health living labs are tailored to such diverse environments?
Right. The iCOSHELLs, we have 6 living labs, and the heart of iCOSHELLs is about turning scientific innovation into actual real world action and change on the ground level. And we're doing this by testing various soil solutions directly on farms and with farmers and with the communities, not just around the science. And with this at heart, it's the farmers and the land users who are actually choosing which solutions they think are viable to test in on their particular home ground. So this is kind of the heart of iCOSHELLs. And our 6 living labs, we range from Atlantic to continental to Mediterranean climates, and we cover agricultural soils, peri-urban soils, and also reclaimed mining sites and industrial sites. So we have a wide range of actual sites, land use types. But the key is that I think that we're testing, in often cases, similar types of solutions on different land use types. And in this way, I think we're going to gain valuable insights in how different solutions can be used for different situations to improve soil health in general.
So you have these diverse environments, different land use types, as you were saying. And one of the project's major goals is to establish some standardized monitoring methodologies and protocols. So how are you approaching that, and what outcomes do you hope to achieve with that?
We are definitely. That's one of the objectives is to have standard both set of standard soil health indicators for monitoring changes in soil health, because if we're going to be testing solutions for improving soil health, we have to have indicators that we can follow. And one of the key things is hopefully so that these living labs can continue living after the project, which is after the funding from the EU, is that we have to end up with a set of soil health indicators that farmers and land use managers can use within their own realm to keep working together and to test different solutions and to monitor these indicators even after the funding of the project is finished, so that they can continue working to continue improving the soil health of the land that they're managing. So that's one of the big challenges that we have is how to translate this into long-term sustainability of these living labs even after the project funding ends.
Thanks, Erik. And Sonia, let's turn to you and Lilas for Soils. So Lilas for Soils places carbon farming practices right at its core. What is the project's overall ambition, and also what makes it different from other soil initiatives?
Yes, indeed. Lilas for Soils really focuses on carbon farming practices. And there is already a robust evidence that these practices do improve soil health. So we are not going to reinvent the wheel on that. But there is also a big gap between what has been proven on experimental sites of research organizations and universities and what is actually applied in real farms. So that is where Lilas for Soils, and I would say a living lab approach in general, can really make a difference. So we are really taking these practices and bring them to the farm. We put the farmer at the center and really support them to identify first and then co-create and implement what are the best carbon farming practices for their soil, for their farm in their real conditions. And then we really understand with them these practicalities, be it technical, so in terms of knowledge, many farmers told us that they really appreciate this personalized support, or be it economic, social, or cultural as well. We know that there is a lot of family and generational inherited beliefs, as well, and pressures on the farm. So that can also be play a role in all of this. And so a living lab approach really allows us to bring different perspectives at the table around the farmer in this co-creation process, and it will really help us bridge this gap between research and application, so that ultimately, as also Erik was mentioning, we would like to scale and ensure the long-term application of these carbon farming practices. Indeed, the long-term survival or applicability of these practices and the living lab methodology really depends on the value that we bring to farmers on their farm. And this is, I think, our greatest ambition, to really make the difference for the farmers.
And you're already working with an impressive network of 100 farms across 6 countries and covering a wide variety of farming systems and pedoclimatic conditions. So how's the implementation going so far? Any standout moments or stories you can share from the field?
So far, we are just starting, actually engaging with our farmers. We started Leaders for Soils with 35 farmers and 15 experimental sites, and we just closed our open call to complement with 50 additional farmers. However, we received 282 applications. There is an impressive and overwhelming interest out there on carbon farming practices. We received really applications from a wild variation difference in farmers, those that have been doing carbon farming for a while, but maybe they never measure the impact on soil, and others that are just starting and would really like to have support, or others that are really seeing their neighbors and believe there's something to be done in a different way, and they want to start. So it has been quite impressive to see this interest. And so now we are in the process of talking with our farmers, as I said, to select the carbon farming practices that are best for them. And two crucial parts of this can be summarized with the word quantification. We heard about quantification of the impact, the environmental impact on the soil, and we are helping them through our soil monitoring protocol that we are also debating and making sure that is aligned at European level with many other initiatives, as well as quantification of the business side, right? So the cost and the benefits as well. So we will support them on those two fronts. And we are just starting putting the baseline in place right now with all of them.
Thanks, Sonia. And Cristina, over to you and the work being done by LivingSoiL. So LivingSoiL focuses on permanent crops, which is a crucial but often complex area for soil health. What does your project aim to achieve, and how are you working with farmers to innovate and co-create solutions?
At LivingSoiL unite farmers from the wine, olive, chestnut, hazelnut, and apple sectors because of their economic and social impacts in the European space. And we, in this project, farmers are really key actors. And they will collaborate with scientists across 5 living labs through testing innovative soil management practices to enhance soil health. And how they will collaborate? Well, they will collaborate on identifying, first of all, main soil challenges and main innovative solutions to be tested in each living lab, because we figure out that farmers are already in their farms testing innovative solutions that they already have there isolated. They are testing, and now we are putting together these farmers, and in collaboration with scientists, we are really engaged them in making their farmers available in a real commercial environment. They will collaborate in collecting first soil health parameters, so the baseline, what is designated as baseline, in order to understand the initial state of their soil in the experimental site selected. They will collaborate also in testing these innovative solutions to improve soil health. They have the conditions there. They have the machinery. They have they will put the seeds. They will put the compost in their experimental sites. They are actively engaged in applying these solutions. They also will collaborate in collecting information about real costs of the implementation of these solutions, because we need to have these figures in order to compare, to understand the feasibility of the application of these solutions, and also to support the future implementation of these solutions in terms of economic viability, and also to develop business models that can be supporting living lab sustainability.
You mentioned about testing there, and we know that testing is one of the key elements of living labs, but living labs are also for spreading good practices. So how do you plan to share and scale these practices among land managers and also among broader communities?
Yes, the project aims to actively involve over 2,000 local actors, including farmers and communities, to encourage the adoption of sustainable farming practices to improve soil health on these 5 permanent crops, and also to promote soil literacy. Our goal is to establish at least 50 experimental sites and at least 10 lighthouses. These lighthouses will be selected from the experimental sites in which the applied soil solutions improve soil health, and also benefits for the 5 permanent crop. The farmers need to be sure that the solutions applied, as long as they benefit soil health parameter, they also benefit the crop performance, because it will be the way that these farmers convince other farmers to apply these solutions. We can have good practices to improve soil health parameters, but we also need to be sure that these practices didn't impact negatively the crops. Otherwise, the farmers will not adopt these solutions. So it's very important to have this peer-to-peer approach, to engage more farmers to adopt these innovative solutions, but also demonstrating to the peers that these solutions benefit soil and also benefit crops. So making their farms available as lighthouses, farmers can demonstrate these benefits and convince other farmers to change the way that soil is managed in each living lab.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you all for sharing these insights on your projects. It's really interesting to learn more about what you're all doing. Before we wrap up, I have one last question for each of you. And that question is, what's your message to citizens? So it could be farmers, urban dwellers, nature lovers, on how they can play a role in restoring or protecting the health of our soils. Let's start with Sonia.
I would really see citizen in an even broader way. Like, we are all citizens, right? So as personally, since I'm not a farmer, I do think that sometimes the role of farmers is really underestimated. They play a crucial role as stewards of the land, and we should all understand a bit better the level of effort that goes into producing our food, and be more informed about the regenerative practices and how this can really impact several parameters of our food, right? Starting from the nutrition level, besides, of course, the carbon footprint of the food production. So I think, first of all, information, and second of all, probably the most impactful action that we can take as citizens every day, we are also consumers. So to be much more conscious of what we buy and on our everyday decisions, basically, right? Affordability can still be a barrier. Let's not deny it, but those that can should really lead the way and create a market for regenerative produced food. So I think that really can change also the way farmers perceive the market and the rate at which these practices can be implemented and once again scaled up in the future as well.
Thanks, Sonia. And Erik, what would your message to citizens be?
My message, I mean, soil, I think almost everyone understands the connection between soil or agriculture and our food production system. But I think many don't really understand that soils are also so closely linked to clean water, to biodiversity, even climate stability. It's the whole package. Is soil is in the center of it. And I mean, we can just look back in history and see clear examples of when we ignore our soils, when we ignore our soil health. Look back way back in history to the collapse of the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica. In Mesoamerica, or even Mesopotamia's problems historically with salinization, and when they started using irrigation of their agricultural fields. But even more recent in history, in the 1930s, the Great Dust Bowl in America, when we were ignoring our soil health, we came close to collapsing society, and it's obvious when we neglect soil, the consequences can be really great. The good news is today, I mean, we have science, we have tools, we have a much better understanding, but to the people, what's important is that this is a shared responsibility. Exactly as Sonia said, I agree entirely. Farmers are absolutely key. They're the stewards of the soils in our whole food production system. And they're not just producing food, but they're also stewards of the ecosystems, and they're providing enormous ecosystem services that I think most people take for granted. And this is really key. And everybody needs to get in and understand this, that the soils and the lawns and the parks and the sideways and of the cities it's all connected, and we all need to come together to work to improve the health of these soils.
So strong messages there from Erik and Sonia on the shared responsibility that we all have. And Cristina, if we come to you as well, what would your message be to citizens?
Well, I will not repeat what was already mentioned by Sonia and Erik, because this is indeed is the big message was already said, but I can only give a short message saying that everyone, regardless of where they live, what they do, they can take simple but powerful actions to protect and restore soil health. Farmers can use sustainable soil management practices like cover cropping, reduced tillage, or composting. Urban dwellers can support farmers who use sustainable practices by choosing local or sustainable projects. Citizens can also compost food scraps to reduce waste and return nutrients to soil, and participate in campaigns of local conservation efforts, like planting native flora or removing invasive species, and participating in initiatives that promote soil literacy. Whether you are growing food or simply choose it wisely, you are shaping the future from the ground up. So I think the final message can be this one.
Thanks, Cristina. And a big thank you to you and also to Erik and Sonia for joining us today. Your work is not only inspiring, but it's also essential to the future of soil health across Europe. So thank you for that. And thanks also to our listeners for tuning in. If you've missed any of our earlier episodes, you can catch up anytime on the Mission Soil platform. You can also subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or via the European Commission's audiovisual service. Until next time.